Wow. Enggak. Nanti aja bisa. Tadi sudah berapa, Bu? Tadi berapa? Apa tuh? Balinya. Ya Allah, ini udah tua, sabar. Ya lagi tadi. Ini loh. Tadi kamu minta scan nanti. Nah ini kamu udah bilang. Akan ini kan aku dari kelas 1 macet. Kayak itu temen gue di sini di Pondok Pipa, dia di kelas 1. Itu temen gue tapi kayak gitu. Ya anak aku tahu ceweknya. Ya udah ya. Tolong dia coba. Ngelewatin aku tuh aku. Pinjem. Oh, kalau sih. Magi-magi lagi mana? Tabung. Ya udah apa-apa. Mana garis?
Apakah suara saya terdengar di Zoom? Oke. Di sini tentu jelas ya.
Dengan.
Oke, baik. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wa bihi nasta'in wa ala umurid dunya waddin. Wassalatu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi washabihi ajmain. Amma ba'du. Yang saya hormati Pak Dekan Fakultas Adab dan Humaniora, Bapak Saiful Imam PhD, beserta jajarannya. Kemudian yang saya hormati hadir di ruang offline, ruang teater, ada Ibu Kaprodi, Sejarah dan Peradaban Islam, Ibu Dr. Awalia Rahma. Yang saya hormati Prof. Jajat Burhanuddin, dan tentu saja yang saya hormati Dr. Mahmud Kuria from Leiden University. Yang saya banggakan Bapak dan Ibu dosen Fakultas Adab dan Humaniora UIN Jakarta, baik yang ada di teater maupun di Zoom. Dan terakhir yang saya cintai, para mahasiswa Fakultas Adab dan Humaniora. Perkenalkan, nama saya Endi Aulia Garadian, dosen Sejarah dan Peradaban Islam, sekaligus moderator pada kegiatan hari ini. Sebelum kita mulai agendanya, saya akan bacakan beberapa aturan. Yang pertama, seminar ini akan dilaksanakan secara bilingual dengan bahasa Inggris dan bahasa Indonesia. Pertama, Mahmud akan berbicara dalam bahasa Inggris, and then I will translate as exact as possible to all of you. Saya akan mentranslate setiap slide yang dia katakan. Jadi satu slide dia bacakan, kemudian akan saya translate. Saya kira itu aturannya. Sebelum kita mulai, mungkin ada saya akan memberikan kesempatan kepada Pak Saiful Imam yang sudah ada di ruang Zoom untuk memberikan kata pengantar. Untuk Pak Saiful, time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Saya berharap suara saya bisa terdengar ya, baik di ruang teater maupun para peserta lewat Zoom.
Ya, terdengar, Pak.
Oke, baik. Alhamdulillah, syukurillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, ma'ba'du. Very good morning to everyone. I would like to say something in this occasion, in this moment. First, I would like to thank and appreciate Dr. Mahmud Kuria Dartodi. I hope that I don't mispronounce your last name. Yeah, thank you for your availability in this morning to present your talk on Islamic text in circulation. We would like also to welcome you to this faculty, to this university. We hope that you will have a great time doing your research and also being a visiting lecturer at this university. We would like to learn much from you, of course, and also we would like to share our, let's say, our experience, our knowledge, and so there will be a mutual benefit to you and also to us as a community, as a group of people. In this opportunity, I would like to let's say to greet also to the all participant. Terima kasih kepada semua yang sudah hadir di pagi ini, baik yang offline di ruang teater maupun yang online, melalui Zoom. Dr. Mahmud ini seperti tadi saya sudah sampaikan adalah visiting professor di UIN, tepatnya di Fakultas Adab. dalam semester ini. Beliau memang melakukan riset tentang kurang lebih tentang topik yang akan dibicarakan sekarang, gitu ya. Dan kita beruntung bahwa Dr. Mahmud ini ada di tengah kita dan bersedia menyampaikan ceramah terkait dengan riset beliau. Saya kira ini satu hal yang menarik, gitu ya. Kalau dulu Profesor Martin melanjutkan riset sebelumnya yang, aduh saya lupa namanya, malah hilang, yang membahas tentang teks-teks Islam klasik yang beredar di pesantren, yang diajarkan di sejumlah pesantren, yang itu tidak tentu saja yang didominasi oleh fikih dan oleh kitab-kitab yang bermadhab Syafi'i, dan ketika dibandingkan dengan karya abad 19 juga tidak banyak perubahan. Maka saya kira kita ingin mendengar juga dari Dr. Mahmud yang melakukan kajian lebih luas dalam hal membandingkan teks-teks yang juga diajarkan di tempat lain, di wilayah lain, di negara lain. Nah, ini yang saya kira menarik karena mungkin sudah ada tentu saja yang melakukan kajian terhadap teks yang beredar di negara lain, tapi ketika membandingkan antar wilayah, ini yang saya kira ada yang menarik dari kajian atau riset dari Dr. Mahmud ini, sehingga kita beruntung bahwa beliau menjadi visiting researcher, visiting professor di kita, yang tidak hanya akan memberikan ceramah di sini, tapi juga nanti akan join dengan beberapa profesor untuk masuk kelas dan memberikan ceramah tambahan. Oleh karena itu saya berharap bahwa seminar di pagi hari ini, lectures di pagi hari ini bisa dimanfaatkan dengan secara maksimal, baik oleh kalangan khususnya oleh kalangan akademik di Fakultas Adab, lebih khusus lagi jurusan SPI ya, karena ini yang sangat terkait secara erat. Tetapi juga saya berharap ini bisa menjadi gagasan yang menarik, hasil yang menarik untuk publik secara umum yang mengikuti Zoom secara yang mengikuti seminar secara daring lewat Zoom maupun YouTube, maupun yang hadir langsung di ruangan. Tentu saja saya sangat berterima kasih nih ke moderator yang tadi sudah menyampaikan akan menerjemahkan, tapi mungkin ada baiknya juga tidak harus literal gitu, tapi in principle yang penting yang disampaikan, sehingga kemudian waktu yang digunakan tidak tersita terlalu banyak untuk menerjemahkan tentu saja. Jadi saya berharap para peserta ini juga learn, improve your English gitu kan, while listening to the talk that presented in English gitu. Jadi ini sebuah kesempatan yang bagus juga untuk bagaimana kita upgrade, meningkatkan kemampuan listening kita dalam bahasa Inggris, sehingga memang itu penting untuk diterjemahkan oleh moderator, oleh Pak Endi tadi, pokok-pokok pikiran dari Dr. Mahmud ini. Tapi saya berharap juga kesempatan untuk explore lebih luas dan juga question and answer itu masih tetap ada, sehingga kemudian nanti bisa terjadi interaksi timbal balik, baik itu yang terkait dengan pertanyaan maupun informasi tambahan yang ada hubungannya dengan materi ceramah di pagi hari ini. Terima kasih sekali lagi ke Dr. Mahmud. Thank you for your availability in this morning, Dr. Mahmud, and we really appreciate your presence here, your help to our department, especially in courses and also in other things that we expect from you in the future. We do hope that you will have a great time doing your research here in Indonesia, and we look forward to having more cooperation in the future. Terima kasih sekali lagi ke Andy dan kepada semua yang hadir, semua dosen dan semua peserta, baik yang online melalui Zoom maupun yang offline di di teater. Selamat mengikuti public lecture dan mudah-mudahan ini memberikan manfaat yang banyak buat kita semua. Makasih, mohon maaf. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for your warm welcome, Saiful Imam. So today we have Dr. Mahmud Kuria from Leiden University. In his age, which is quite young, Mahmud already reached many academic achievements, and he is very great scholar, as I could see from his CV. His education for his doctoral study from Leiden University, PhD in 2016 in global history. His dissertation is Cosmopolis of Law, Islamic Legal Ideas and Texts Across the Eastern Mediterranean and the Indian Ocean World. While his magister went from Jawaharlal Nehru University, right, New Delhi, India, Magister of Philosophy 2012, and MA in 2011 in Ancient Indian History. His thesis is Bhakti and Taqwa in the Sacred Geographies of the Western Ghats. Actually, he can many research language from Malayalam is native, English very fluent, Arabic is fluent, especially in Persia, proficient in Urdu, Hindi, Tamil, Dutch, Malay, and for his bahasa, he wrote that he is intermediate. But I hope that you can improve your bahasa like later on in Indonesia. For his academic position, he is a visiting professor in Department of History, Soka University, India. He is also a researcher, School of Middle Eastern Studies in Leiden University. And he is also a researcher from the Department of Archaeology, History, Cultural, and Religious Studies in University of Bergen, Norway. He is a grantee of many fellowships. I will read the latest one. First is he is a grantee from Pioneer Research Grant from Young Researchers, Dutch Research Council, the Netherlands, and then Network Grand Asian Modernities and Tradition from Leiden University, Trans-Regional Junior Research Scholar Fellowship, Inter-Asia Program, Social Science Research Council from New York. His publication is very enormous. I could say that, and I could read inter alia such as Islamic law in circulation, SPI text across the Indian Ocean and the Mediterranean, published in Cambridge University Press 2022, very fresh from the oven. And then Islamic law also published in 2022, Islamic law in the Indian Ocean, Texts, Ideas, and Practices, edited with Sine Ravensbergen, published in New York. So there are many publications that I cannot read one by one, but for today, actually we will discuss one of his publication. His presentation today entitled Islamic Texts in Circulation Between the Mediterranean and the Indian Ocean. I read in the fine of your book said that he will analyze the spirit and survival of Islamic legal ideas and commentaries in the Eastern Mediterranean and the Indian Ocean littorals, Islamic law in circulation, which is his newest book, and also our today topic focus on Shafiism, Mazhab Shafi, one of the four Mazhab Sunni in our Islamic law, the greatest, one of the greatest. And before we continue to our discussion, I just remember our conversation when I first met with Mahmud in airport, Soekarno-Hatta. I asked him about his expertise, and he said, my area of expertise is the history of Mazhab Shafi. And I said, wow, really, very great. He taught me about the history of Shafi mazhab, etc., and so on. Yeah, but I just wondering because it's quite new topic for me. Not really get the right answer actually because we are in the travel from the airport. But today I think my question will be elaborately answered uh, by some many cases that he will show to us today. So without further ado, Mahmoud, time and also the microphone are yours. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alil faizin abdullah mabad. Terima kasih banyak untuk kepada semua, terutama padakan Pak Saiful, Imam, juga Profesor Pak Jajat Burhanuddin dan Bu Aulia, dan juga untuk introduksi. Saya berharap saya bisa berbicara dengan semua dalam bahasa Indonesia, tapi bahasa saya kurang bagus. Oleh karena itu, saya insya Allah berbicara dalam dalam bahasa Inggris. Ya, hari ini okay. So once again, thank you so much for in Jakarta and also particularly Faculty of Humanities and Faculty of Adab and Humanities, and also especially the Department of History, Department of Civilization and History, for having me in this session, and also for hosting me as a visiting researcher in the department. I wish I could speak in Bahasa Indonesia, but because my Bahasa is not that very fluent, I would be speaking mostly in English, unless of course I would like to clarify something, or or you would like me to clarify something. I would be happy to do so. So today what I will be speaking to you is about the, as you saw in the title of the poster, Islamic texts in circulation. And there is a slight revision in the title. You can see that. Earlier it was from the Mediterranean to the Indian Ocean. And there is a problem with that, because it assumes that Islam or Islamic texts always travel from the Mediterranean to the Indian Ocean, in the sense that from Arabia, everything is imported from Arabia to the Indian Ocean region, South Asia and Southeast Asia. Yeah, but I put it differently because it also is a story about the journey from South and Southeast Asia or Indian Ocean to the Mediterranean region. Yeah. Okay. So okay. Maybe I'll stand there. Better.
Jadi Mahmud hari ini akan berbicara mengenai sirkulasi teks-teks keagamaan dalam dunia Islam di Laut Mediterania dan Samudra Hindia. Dulunya awalnya kita tahunya itu teks dari Mediterania melewati Arab baru ke Samudra Hindia. Tapi ini dia akan coba balik dari Samudra Hindia ke Mediterania.
So in the region we have, maybe if you look at in the history of Indonesia, history of Islam in Indonesia, but also in Samudra India, we can see three categories of texts. as you can see in this slide, can you full screen? Okay. So one is fiqh, and the second one is tasawwuf, and the third one is kalam akhlaq, or theology and ethics. Yeah. So do you know what is fiqh? Apa definisi fiqh? Yeah. Belum tahu. Have you heard what is fiqh? Yeah. Yeah, that is the literal translation. Yeah, to understand. But more specifically, Islam. Oh yeah. Uh-huh. Taken from. Thank you. Thank you. What is your name? Okay. Sorry, I didn't. Dafar. Yeah, thank you. Dafar. So that is almost min al-Quran wa sunnah wal ijma' wal qiyas. Yeah. So there are four more. Two more. So fiqh is generally categorized as two. Yeah, usul al-fiqh and then furu al-fiqh. Yeah, have you heard? Usul al-fiqh or furu al-fiqh. So usul al-fiqh is a theory. Yeah, theory of fiqh, the basic principles. And the furu al-fiqh is the application, yeah, application of the theory. And what we see, maybe in the history of Indonesia or India or most of the African coast, there are a lot of works written in fiqh, and that is mostly furu al-fiqh, which can be translated as substantive law, yeah, or positive law in English. And there is also the other two categories, tasawwuf, yeah, Sufi, like in tariqa. There are many tariqa, right? Naqshbandiya, Shatariya, Qadiriya, Jailaniya, and so forth, yeah. So in tasawwuf also, several ulama, like maybe Hamza Pansuri, Shamsuddin Samatrani, many ulama from Indonesia who have written several works. And then kalam and akhlaq is a broad category, like, might have heard aqidah is one area, but also there is something like, for example, jihad. Yeah, perang, like perang sabil, or like, you call it like sabil, jihad fi sabilillah. Yeah. So there are also a lot of texts written in these categories, which can also be identified. So all the texts, not yet. Yeah. Yeah. So all these texts are written in these three texts, yeah, in these three categories. And what I will talk to you is mostly about the first one, which is about the fiqh, or Islamic law. You already understood. Yeah. Do you need translation or not? There are some who say yes and some.
Ya, jadi ada 3 kategori teks yang nanti akan dijelaskan sama Dr. Mahmud. Ada fikih, tadi Dafa sudah jelasin fikih itu apa yang dimaksud. Tapi di sini dia lebih spesifik menjelaskan fikih dalam bentuk yang aplikatif, bukan yang teoritis, ya, bukan usul fikih. Kemudian ada teks yang tasawuf, dan ketiga teks kalam atau teologi. Kalau tasawuf, kalian tahu ada tarekat Naqsabandiyah, tarekat Qadiriyah, dan lain sebagainya. Ya.
Okay. Yeah, next. Terima kasih. Yeah. So this is my book that Masendi or Payandi just mentioned. It came out this year, 3 months ago in May. Yeah, already 4 months. So, or 5 months on Islamic law in circulation. Yeah, it's the same book but different cover. So this one over here is published by, like in the edition by Cambridge University Press, and the other one is, by the Indian South Asian edition, and this is the Cambridge edition. So what I will be talking to you mainly is about, some of my findings or some of my engagements in this book. Yeah. Okay. So in the book that I try to do mainly four things. One is that in the history of Islamic law, yeah, most of the works written so far is on the Islam, the classical period. Do you know what is the classical period? Like, have you heard mutaakhirun or mutaqaddimun? Okay. So usually the history of Islamic law is divided into two periods. So the early ulama, like, when you have the madhab, different madhab, right? Hanafi, Shafi, apalagi, Maliki, yeah. Ini semua dalam Sunni, ya. Tapi ada juga di Syi'i dan Ibadi. Tahu apa nama mazhab Syi'i atau Ibadi? Ya? Okay. In the Syi'i tradition, there are two major mazhabs. One is called Ja'fari, named after Ja'far as-Sadiq, yeah, which is also categorized as Akhbari and Usuli. Yeah, Akhbari, which is based on the Hadith, but then also Usuli, which is also going back to the basic tradition. And the third one, Ibadi yang bukan Sunni, yang bukan juga Syi'i, Khawarij, yeah, mainly in Oman, today in Oman, yeah, Muscat and the region, but also in North Africa, several Ibadi, yeah. So Ibadi is also named after one madhab. So all these madhab came in this period, what you call it classical period. So classical period is the first 3 centuries of Hijrah. Yeah. So that is roughly up to 1000 of Common Era. Yeah. After Masihi, or like, up to 1000 period. So, and what is interesting is that all the texts written in the tradition, there are several scholars who have studied the tradition. Most of these scholars only focus on the first 300 years, yeah, not the period after that. So almost 1000 years after the classical period, we do not know much about, what happened, who wrote what, and what was the development in each madhab. So that is one. And the second one is that, is history of Islam or Islamic texts outside the Middle East. Yeah. So whenever there is a history of Islamic law or Islamic mysticism, people always run to the Middle East. They focus only on the Middle East. Yeah. As if Muslims only exist in the Middle East, in Arabia or Persia. Also as if, there are no Muslims in Southeast Asia, like in Nusantara, or in South Asia, like in Indonesia, the largest Muslim country, yeah, or South Asia, which has the largest Muslim population in the world. Once we put South Asian Muslims, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, these 3 countries have more Muslims than all the Arab countries, put together. So their histories are hardly written or acknowledged. Yeah. So that is one problem. Where also we see that before the colonial rulers came into, like, there are of course history of Islam or Islamic law in the region, but it is mainly after the Dutch came to here, yeah, or like in the 18th century, 19th century, and in the Indian context also, it is after the British came to scenario that their history started to be acknowledged. So whatever written before that is never explored. Yeah, as I just one example, like there is this famous text called Sirat al-Mustaqim. Yeah, have you heard Sirat al-Mustaqim? Or like a Karya by Nuruddin Raniri. Yeah. So this text written in 17th century in Indonesia, in Aceh, yeah, it continues still, without a critical edition, yeah, let alone translation. It still continues to be like, with like there is no correlation between different editions of this text. So similarly, like, everything before the colonial period is often neglected. And then finally, like, there is also, there isn't much study about the Islam or Islamic law in the Indian Ocean and Mediterranean, and also the connections between. Yeah. And finally, this aspect, Shafiism in the Indian Ocean world. Yeah. We all know that, for example, in Indonesia, everyone is Shafi. Yeah. But why? Why, like you are Shafi or Hanafi or Maliki? Shafi. Yeah. But why? Kenapa? Maybe you can translate.
Sambil menunggu jawabannya, tadi Mahmud bilang ada 3 macam jenis penulisan histori ya, sejarah atau historiografi. Pertama itu di masa Islam klasik, ketika para sarjana itu menulis fokus hanya pada ulama-ulama awal, seperti kalau di Sunni ada Salafi, Hambali, Maliki, dan Hanafi. Kalau di Syiah tadi ada Jafari, Akhbari, lalu di yang ketiga ada yang Khawarij, yang terutama masih bisa ditemukan sekarang di Oman. Nah, kebanyakan sarjana fokus pada 300 tahun pertama itu. Baru di periode selanjutnya ada beberapa sarjana ya, masih sedikit yang melihat sejarah hukum Islam di kawasan Islam di luar Arab, seperti di Indonesia, di India, di Afrika Selatan, dan lain sebagainya. Itu sebetulnya seolah-olah dilihat tidak ada Islam di situ, padahal ada di Nusantara banyak kitab dan lain sebagainya. Baru yang selanjutnya itu yang juga jarang dilihat adalah perkembangan kitab-kitab fikih yang ada di Nusantara ya, misalnya sebelum masa kolonial seperti karya Raniri yang tadi disebut Mahmud, Shalatul Mustaqim, itu jarang dilihat ya, sering neglected. Nah, baru yang terakhir tadi Mahmud tanya, kenapa kita di Indonesia banyak mazhab Syafi'i? Nah,
do you know why? Maybe there's some reason, no? Is it because your parents were Shafi? Okay. But like, why you follow Shafi? You, like, maybe your parents didn't have an opportunity to go to UIN, yeah? But you have an opportunity to go to UIN. And you have to answer why. Yeah? Yeah. Oh yeah, please. Silakan. Do you want the microphone?
My opinion is because Madhab Shafi'i, the first to Indonesia, use it to Indonesia from the other Madhab. So I lowered that because majority.
Thank you. Is there other suggestion? Yeah. How we in this whichever analyst. In my opinion, why the Indonesian as all the Shafiism. The first one, I guess one thing that maybe because majority book of faith that just learned by Indonesian scholars from the time beyond they are ever. There is a book that all over to Shafiism, just as like Shafi Naja, maybe all of us has heard it before, and Goya to Shafi, or we call it Matan Hadis Suja, and many other. But maybe I want to add in an addition that not all of the Indonesian folks are Shafiism. That so I think there are a lot of Hambalism too, that it sees the effect from the Saudi Arabian kingdom that they will a lot of studies duration that make the Hambalism effect is become more spreadly in Indonesian and spread widely in Okay. Yeah, thank you. So the first answer is that it's an elaboration of what you said. Your name? Firman. You. Oh yeah. Aulia. Yeah. Okay. So an explanation of because the majority is Shafi, and also the majority of the texts that you study, maybe in Pasandran or in the, it's all Shafi. Yeah. So that is, but you also say that there is also minority, which is Hanbali. Yeah. Okay. But once we, is there more explanation? So anyone else? Yeah. In my opinion, why mostly we are Shafi'i? Because I saw that Shafi'i are one of the Islamic schools of thought that are the most correlated with local culture here in Indonesia. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Your name? Askar. Thank you, Askar. That's also one explanation, right? It relates to the local culture. Yeah. But how? Maybe later we can discuss this. Why, like for example, like Maliki, yeah, is not part of the local culture. Yeah. Okay. So without an answer, I leave this to you. But we can come back to this question, yeah, later. You also think about it later to see, why are you Shafi? It's also a question of like, why are you Muslim? Yeah. But next one. Yeah. So in this map, this is like, okay, over here, you see the Mediterranean region, yeah? And from here, like, this all the places, like, across the Indian Ocean, a lot of places where Shafi'i Madhab is followed. So the map is not complete. Here, like, somewhere here you have Cape Town, yeah? From where the Indian Ocean begin, yeah? Cape Town, and in Cape Town you have Cape Malay. Have you heard Cape Malay? Yeah, the Malay people in Cape Town were originally from Makassar, Java, Aceh, who went there or who were taken from Indonesia to South Africa by the Dutch in 17th and 18th century. So they also follow Shafi madhab, yeah. And then here you have Sufala and Kilwa, the East African coast, yeah, up to Mogadishu in Somalia. And then several Yemen, Oman, and then Indian region, east the west coast, and then east coast, and then Sri Lanka, and then of course Java, Aceh, and then we have Bandhan, Jakarta, the place where we are, and then it goes on. So in all these places we have Shafi'i madhab, yeah, and it is interesting why everyone follow Shafi'i madhab, yeah. So this is one thing that I explain in my book, yeah.
Oh, sebelumnya kalau nanti mau nanya atau memberikan penjelasan boleh pakai bahasa Indonesia sebetulnya. Nanti saya coba translate. Tomah kan juga paham beberapa bahasa Indonesia. Di slide ini Mahmud jelasin bahwa di kebanyakan wilayah di Samudra India ini, negara-negara di sini, ini bermazhab Syafi'i. Tadi dijelasin ada orang Indonesia yang entah pergi ke sana atau dikirim ke sana, kemudian ke Cape Town di Afrika Selatan. Itu kemudian mengikuti mazhab Syafi'i. Pertanyaannya, kenapa orang-orang ini ikut mazhab Syafi'i?
Okay, so to that particular question, I'll come back. But before that, I would like to go back to the Islamic texts in circulation, and especially after the classical period, after the 1000 Common Era, or 300 or 3 centuries after the Hijrah. So maybe next slide. Thank you. So you can make it what do you call it? Full screen, yeah. Oh, yeah. So here in the tradition, this is a text called Al-Qawanin Ash-Shar'iyya by a scholar from Jakarta, who originally has a Yemeni or Hadrami background. Yeah, his name is Said Osman. So he, in 1881, he was an advisor to a Dutch colonial officer, Snokor Groningen. So he wrote this book, Al-Qawanin Ash-Shar'iyya, basically explaining foundations of the Shafi'i madhab. Yeah, and in this text, he tried to make a chart of all the texts, all the major texts written in the Shafi'i tradition. Yeah. So here at the top, you can see Al-Um. Yeah. Al-Um, which is the basic text or the first text. Kitab yang tertua atau kitab yang terutama, you say, right? The first text written in the Shafi'i tradition by Imam Shafi himself. And there are 2 other texts. One is Mukhtasar al-Buwaiti, Buwaiti, and then Mukhtasar al-Muzni. Yeah, Muzni and Buwaiti, they were 2 murid of the Imam Shafi, or 2 disciples of Imam Shafi. And there are other texts also written by him. So all these texts, Sayyid Uthman from Jakarta or Batavia at that time, he tried to make a list of all the texts by connecting one another. Going back to texts that, I forget your name, sorry, you mentioned, right, that are being still taught in Pasantren or in the, madrasa of Indonesia. So here at the bottom, you can say, something like Fathul Qarib or Fathul Mu'in, or Safinat al-Najat, all these texts that are being still taught. So this is one attempt, in the Shafi'i tradition to make a list of the texts written after the classical period. So these texts are written in the classical period, these, 5 texts. And everything after that, all these are written after the classical period. Something you can call it like post-classical period. Yeah. And what is interesting is that no one has really studied these texts. Most of the studies have been, only on this, in the Western academia, mainly. Most of these studies have been, on this text. Again, on the Shafi tradition compared to the Hanafi or Maliki, there are not many studies. I'll explain towards the end some of the most important studies that if you would like to explore further. So no one has really studied them. But anyway, many scholars have tried to, categorize these texts into different categories. So Sayyid Uthman from Jakarta, from Batavia, is one of the scholars who did that. Yeah.
Oke, slide ini ada satu karya dari Said Usman dari Batavia. Di tahun 1881 dia menulis ini yang isinya kira-kira teks-teks utama dalam mazhab Syafi'i. Nah, yang di atas ini yang 5 lingkaran, teks ini ditulis oleh Said Usman dan dihubungkan satu sama lain. Jadi teks ini jaringannya kayak apa sih gitu. Dan tadi dijelaskan sama Dahwa, teks ini juga masih diajarkan di pesantren maupun madrasah, beberapa teksnya. Jadi ada Sayyidinatul Najah, Fathul Qarid, dan lain sebagainya. Nah, yang di atas ini, yang 5 bundaran atas, ini teks yang kira-kira datang dari era Islam klasik yang tadi dijelasin di awal itu, slide-slide awal. Kemudian teks di bawahnya ini yang panjang garisnya, ini teks yang datang dari era post-Islam klasik atau post-klasik tadi disebutkan. Nah, sudah banyak sarjana yang melakukan kategorisasi teks-teks ini. Salah satunya itu Said Usman, yang pertama kali melakukan kategorisasi fikih di dalam kajiannya.
Okay, thank you. So the next one. So this is from internet, yeah. Meaning that, still the attempt categorize. There are too many texts, yeah. Banyak kitab-kitab yang dalam Shafi, Madhab Shafi. And several scholars have tried to categorize them to make a, something like a silsila or ranchi, yeah, for the text. And again, you can see that it goes back, from Mukhtasar al-Muzni to all these traditions, and going up to all the texts that you can see, including maybe, Qurratul Ain or, Minhajut Talibin, or all these texts, yeah. And again, so this is like a recent attempt, but this is not the first one. Within the tradition, within the Shafi tradition itself, yeah, maybe there is another Imam Nawawi. Yeah, have you heard Imam Nawawi? Who is he? Yeah. Have you studied any of his texts? Can you say one text that you studied? Yeah. Riyadus Salihin. Say it louder. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Riyadus Salihin. Yeah, one text. Riyadus Salihin in Hadith. Yeah. And in Hadith, there is also one more text. Juga ada satu text lain. Juga oleh Imam Nawawi. Apa namanya? Yang kecil. Huh? Yeah, Hadith Arba'in, Matnul Arba'in, yeah, which is also very famous. So it's all in the Hadith, but he is also famous as a faqih, as a jurist. And he also tried to make a list of most important texts in the Shafi tradition. So he calls it Kutub Mutadawala. Yeah, Kutub Mutadawala means circulatory texts, or the most important text in the Shafi tradition. Yeah, how do you translate, circulatory into Basa? Yeah. So these are the 5 texts that he identified by 3 important authors. So one is Muzni, of course, in all the previous slides also you saw Muzni being the most important. And then the second one, Shirazi. Second and third, both Shirazi texts. Tanbih and Muhazza. And then two other texts by Ghazali, Imam Ghazali, Wasit and Wajiz. Yeah. So according to him, these were the most important texts, which is true, but it has a limitation. The limitation is that it is written in the Imam Nawawi is from 13th century, yeah, and therefore all the texts written after Imam Nawawi is, of course, naturally it is not there. So, like early text interpretation in post-formative or post-classical era, and evolution after the 13th century is not represented. Yeah. You like to translate?
Saya kira tadi beberapa udah ada yang paham bahwa Imam Nawawi tadi sudah dikenal lah di Indonesia. Kitab-kitabnya mungkin kalian sudah pada baca. Tapi selain itu, Imam Nawawi juga terkenal sebagai faqih. Nah, di teks yang paling atas ini, Kutub Mutadawala, itu isinya kira-kira teks yang sering beredar, dan isinya tuh teks-teks paling penting dalam mazhab Syafi'i. Nah, ini dijelasin lagi ada kitab-kitab lain dari Sirozi, Ghazali, dan lain sebagainya. Dan di awal-awal itu teksnya itu apa ya, muter-muter gitu ya, bersirkulasi di era post klasik, bahkan sampai sekarang. Nah,
thank you. So after him, maybe next slide. Thank you. So this is a scholar from 18th century, yeah. So 5 centuries after Imam Nawawi, yeah. He has a very famous text called Fawaid al-Madaniyah. And this is a text on the history of Shafi madhab, or different ikhtilaf, or different of opinions, and different texts written in the Shafi tradition. So he wrote this text called Fawaid al-Madaniyah, in which he also explained different texts, or most famous texts within the Shafi tradition. So, yeah. So this is the text, Fawaid al-Madaniyah. It's published and available online. And two other scholars, one from this one from Yemen, and this one from Malabar, yeah, from India. Both of them wrote a commentary on this text. Yeah, both of them are from the 20th century. He's from 18th century. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So these are all from within the Shafi tradition. And after that, there are, two other scholars, Dutch scholars. So Pa Decan already mentioned Martin van Bruinsen, yeah, who prepared, what you can call it, a initial survey of the Kitab Kuning, yeah, or the texts that are being, Arabic texts that are being taught in the Pesantren tradition. So before him, he did it in 1990. Almost exactly 100 years before him, in 1886, L.W.C. Vandenberg, L.W.C. Vandenberg, we'll come back to him. He also translated Minhaj of Imam Nawawi into French. So he prepared a list of most important texts in the Shafi tradition that are being taught in Java. So he identifies 4 major texts. Rafi's Muharrar, he identifies them as a family, like a Kalurga because within that text you have different descendants which are also being studied. And similarly Taqrib, from which we have the Fathul Qarib, yeah, Fathul Qarib, which is based on the Taqrib. And then Malabar is Qurratul Ain, or which is also Fathul Mu'in. So they all, according to me, is studied, taught in Indonesia. And similarly, one more slide. So this both from Southeast Asia, and this scholar, German scholar, Edward Sakau, he did a similar study in East Africa. Yeah, in almost maybe 10 years after Vandenberg. He came up, he also translated the Hashia of Imam Bajuri on Fathul Karib. Yeah, Hashia Imam Bajuri on Fathul Karib, which is a commentary on the Matan Abu Shuja. So he prepared, according to him, there were 5 categories of texts that are being still taught in the in East Africa, yeah, among the Shafi tradition. So yeah, once we club them together, Vandenberg and Edward Sakau, this is the thing. The major problem is that there are only one text that is like, yeah, Sakau's addition of, like, he brings in 2 additional groups which are not studied in Indonesia. While according to Sakau, he brings additional text. Yeah. And also we see that the Muqaddimah family, which is taught in Indonesia, is not studied. Therefore, we need to have another category which is more comprehensive. Yeah.
Selain yang tadi dijelaskan mengenai para pengkaji teks mazhab Syafi'i, ada Vandenberg, ada Martin van Brunissen, dan kemudian Edward Sakau. Nah, yang menjadi ini lebih kompleks lagi karena Sakau membawa 2 teks tambahan dalam kajian, ya, sehingga membuat kategorisasinya itu tidak lagi sederhana tapi menjadi lebih kompleks.
Okay, before I go on, any questions, any clarification that you would like to have? Something that you didn't understand? You understood everything or nothing? So when I was studying, my teacher used to say, if there is no question, that means 2 things. Either you understood everything or you understood nothing. So which one is it? Everything you understood? You can ask anything, yeah, related to this. Okay. So maybe I'll go to, so you see already there is a bit of problem. And on that basis, we can identify a new category of text, yeah? And I am not explaining the rationale behind it, but maybe we can go to the next one. Oh, sorry, before, oh yeah, sorry. So once we identify, there are 13 forms of text written in the tradition, like 13 genres. And they can be identified as Matan, Sharah, Mukhtasar, Hashia, Amir Talik, and so forth, so forth. Which, if you are interested, I can, of course, explain what is this, yeah? But I don't want to bore you with the details. So these are, like, according to my opinion, these are the major 7 families of texts written by the Shafi ulama after the classical period. Yeah. So you have the Tanqih, and then Tanbih, and then Muhazzab. So this is like, something that brings together the Nawawi's classification as well as Suleiman Kurdi, but also Vandenberg, Martin van Brunissen, and then Edward Sakau, on the basis of certain things that I explain in the book. Why, one text is a family while the other is not. It is mainly on the basis of to what extent the text is used by people in Indonesia or India or Africa. Yeah, to what extent people not only use, but also how do they write commentary or like a poems or, on the basis of the text. Yeah, so these are 5 seven families that we can identify. So I don't know whether you can see this here, but basically I try to make a list of the text. So all these seven families, yeah. So the Tanqi is possibly the oldest family, yeah, or the oldest, most famous text. And the text, there is this only one I explain. Yeah, first one I explain, and then later you can, maybe check. So BT means base text. Base text means only matan. Do you know what matan is? Matan, ya. Apa artinya? Ya. Ya. Say. Yeah, not only is the hadith, but also no, that is in hadith. Ini dalam hadith saja, bukan dalam fikih. Dalam fikih tahu apa artinya matan. There is some connection. That matan is the base, yeah. The base text on which you explain other things. So there is matan, the base text, and then there is a commentary, yeah, on the matan. You understand? Yeah. So in this, why do I say family? Keluarga Tanqi. Yeah, because Tanqi is originally written as a commentary on this matan or base text called Lubab, yeah, by Mahamali. And then Tanqi is the most famous commentary, yeah, most famous Sharah on the matan. And then also there are other texts. So similarly, you can also see, all these other families which are also used in the Shafi tradition. So you can forget all these things except these two, yeah, 6 and 7, Minhaj and Fathul Mu'in. These two texts which are widely still used across the Indian Ocean from East Africa to Southeast Asia. So yeah.
Ini nih agak-agak kompleks, tapi kira-kira di bagian ini ada 7 teks yang dikelompokkan sebagai keluarga, tapi bukan berarti itu namanya keluarga Tanqi, bukan Tanqi, tapi itu supaya mudah aja, supaya mudah dikategorisasi oleh Mahmud. Nah, yang paling atas itu yang paling nomor 1 tadi, paling tua dan paling terkenal teksnya, dan sudah pasti pengkaji ataupun kita tahu teks-teks itu. Tapi yang paling penting adalah melihat yang nomor 6 dan 7 yang hijau-hijau itu. 2 teks itu masih sering dipakai di wilayah Samudra India, termasuk Indonesia, India, dan lain-lain.
Okay, so in this one, my book is basically looking, of course I explain, all these families, but my book, Islamic Law in Circulation, is based on basically these two, yeah. So the Minhaj al-Talibin is its full text, yeah, or its full title, Minhaj al-Talibin wa Umdatul Muftin, yeah, by Imam Nawawi. Yeah, Imam Nawawi again, the same scholar that we just mentioned. So its base text for the matan is Muharrar by Rafi'i, and then the most famous text is Minhaj by Nawawi, and this text has about 200 sharah or hashia or matan. Oh, sorry. Damascus region, yeah, from the Mediterranean, Eastern Mediterranean region. And the second text is, the Fathul Mu'in, and the base text by the same author, Al-Malebari, Zainuddin Al-Malebari. So the base text is called Qurratul Ain, and then Fatih is a auto commentary. I'll explain later what is auto commentary. And then there are about 40 commentaries or auto commentaries, super commentaries and translations, into many language, like into Bahasa Indonesia, Bahasa Sunda, or Bahasa Aceh, Bahasa Swahili, and so forth. The text has been translated. So basically, the reason why I choose this text is to go back to what I said at the beginning, that mostly the Islamic legal tradition in South Asia or Southeast Asia before the colonial period is neglected. So I take this one text as an example to study the history of Islam or Islamic law in the region.
Jadi kenapa di 6 dan 7 ini menjadi fokus utama dari bukunya Mahmud. Tadi dijelasin ada yang Minhaj Family ini kitab atau matanya adalah Haror, kemudian yang nomor 7 itu matanya adalah Qurra. Alasan kenapa teks ini yang dipilih tadi udah dijelasin di awal, karena kebanyakan kajian yang ada itu jarang melihat masa-masa kolonial, jadi kebanyakan di masa-masa awal. Makanya ini menjadi penting dilakukan kajian bukunya Mahmud.
Thank you. So in the next few slides, I explain the Keluarga Minhaj, Minhaj family, and why it is important. So the most important, the first text is what I would say the code, because it codified Islamic law or Shafi school of law. So up to, maybe before we go to that, so this is one of the first manuscript, first naskha of the Minhaj Talibin from Princeton University Library. But maybe from around the same time, we also have another naskha from Leiden University Library. I put only one. So can you read this? Who can read this? Try. Can you see? Maybe can you zoom, like, this part? Yeah. So who can read that? Can you read Arabic? How many can read Arabic? Aksar Arab, berapa orang bisa membaca? Maybe raise your hands. Okay. 1, 2. 2 aja. Ke bawah. Down. Yeah, this one, Yeah, try. Okay. Please. Yeah. What is it? And this is like, from 14th century. Yeah.
Kitabul Manhaj.
Almost correct, but incorrect. Manhaj, not Minhaj. Minhaj. Yeah. There is a big difference. If you, in Arabic, right, if you miss an alif, because Kitabul Manhaj is a text of another scholar. Yeah. And the reason why I emphasize that, if most of you study Sajaraya, if you study history or other, or anything, it is very important that you learn languages, not only Arabic. Yeah, I often emphasize that as a student, we have to learn at least 4 languages. Yeah, so already you know Bahasa Indonesia, yeah, and there is no question about it. Bahasa Indonesia, it is like your native language. And the second language that you have to know is English. Yeah, that also you have to know, because if you not only teach in a university, if you do any job, it's very important that you know Bahasa Inggris. Yeah, if you don't know, it is very difficult to, like, even to do a game or video game or business or or any job. Yeah, so that is one. Second language. And similarly, you have to study one more Asian language and one more European language. Yeah. So the Asian language, you can maybe study Arabic, but you can also study maybe Bahasa China or Bahasa Korea, if you like, maybe K-pop. Maybe you can study Korean or any other Asian language. Yeah, maybe Bahasa Urdu or Bahasa Hindi. It's very important you know one more Asian language. And especially if you study, for example, in UIN, in an Islamic university, you study either Arabic or Persian. Yeah, Farsi, Bahasa Farsi. So that is one additional Asian language. But also you study one more European language in addition to English. So you can study maybe German or maybe Spanish. So Spanish is like one of language that is spoken in how many countries? Do you know? How many countries speaks Bahasa Spanish or Espanol? Any idea? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, in 18 countries, Bahasa Spanish is an official language. So similarly, like any other language, so it's always very important, and more so if you are studying history or any humanities or other sajra, sociology, political science. In all these areas, if you study different language, it is always very helpful. Yeah, you don't have to be very fluent, but still making an attempt to study the language. It's not only about the attempt, anyone can attempt, everyone try maybe for 1 week or maybe maximum 1 month. And after that, you skip. But whenever we study, it is always about being consistent, at least for 1 year. Every day, if you focus for 1 hour, learning one of these languages, it is very important. So yeah, going back to this text, so this Naskah is from 14th century of Minhaj Talibin. So Minhaj Talibin is a text that is written by Imam Nawawi, and this text immediately became the most important text in Shafi tradition because it brought together 2 different traditions, or 2 different groups within the Shafi tradition. So in the Shafi, after Imam Shafi, there was a split, a division between the Khurasani in Persia and then the Iraqi in Baghdad. So there was a split on the basis of the way in which Shafi mazhab was to be interpreted. And Imam Nawawi, he tried to bring them together by codifying all the different opinions into one small text that is called Minhaj al-Talibin. Yeah, and that is why this text continues to be copied all over. Even up to 19th century, 20th century, even we see several manuscripts, for example, from Minangkabau, West Sumatra, Aceh, Makassar, Malabar, or Malabar, Ceylon. We get maybe Zanzibar, we get several manuscripts of Minhaj Talibin. So if you want to become a Shafi, or if you are a Shafi, you have to study, at least until early 20th century. You needed to study Minhaj Talibin. So that means if you didn't study Minhaj Talibin, you are not a Shafi. For many students, historically. Yeah.
Oke, kira-kira tadi dijelasin bahwa Shafi mazhab ini diinterpretasi oleh dua arus utama. Salah satunya An-Nawawi tadi ya. And then kalau kalian menjadi pengikut mazhab Syafi'i yang baik, tidaknya akan studi tentang kitab Minhaj Talibin ini. Apalagi kalau kalian sekarang studinya studi sejarah.
Any questions? Okay. So this text, the one after this, is the commentary. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. So the Minhaj Talibin received too many, more than 150 commentaries, almost 200 commentaries, and commentaries can be like of various categories. And out of all the commentaries, one most famous text is called Tuhfatul Muhtaj by a scholar called Ibn Hajar al-Haythami, originally from Egypt, from Cairo, but he migrated to Makkah and he died there. So this Tuhfatul Muhtaj is also a very famous text in the. So out of all the commentaries of the Minhaj, this text became very important. And also there are some other commentaries which are also written in the period, but this is the possibly the most important commentary. And yeah, I can explain maybe later if you're interested why it is important and so forth. So this is one most important text, and this is a manuscript from, you can see on the margin. This is from like library of the Masjid al-Haram in Makkah. Yeah. So they have the category of the Fiqh Shafi, and this manuscript is from there. You can see here also from Maktaba or the Pustakan Makkah al-Muharrama. So this is so originally he wrote this text, but this copy is of course not his autograph or not from his time, but from a later period. So this is the most important commentary. And then there is the next one, yeah, the auto commentary. Do you know what is auto commentary? Have you heard the term auto commentary? A new vocabulary, yeah. Auto commentary is a commentary that a person writes a commentary on his own text or her own text. Yeah. For example, I write, my book, Islamic Law in Circulation. Yeah. And I write a commentary on it maybe after 10 years. So that is called auto commentary. So this scholar, Al-Malaybari, he originally wrote this small text called Qurratul Ain, maybe in the next one. So this scholar is, from the region that I come from Malabar, yeah, in India.
Ya, sambil nunggu saya coba translate yang tadi 3 slide sebelumnya. Tadi ada yang slide awal-awal, cukup awal itu ada komentari yang cukup terkenal dari banyak komentari yang ada 200-an tadi, yaitu yang ditulis oleh Al-Haytami dari Kairo. Terus tadi naskahnya didapatkan dari perpustakaan Masjidil Haram di Mekah. Meskipun kemudian itu dapatnya dari Leiden ya. You got the manuscript of from the Mekah. Oh ya, jadi itu dapat langsung dari Mekah. Nah, yang slide kemudian yang ketiganya soal auto commentary. Jadi kalau teman-teman pernah dengar autobiografi, biografi yang ditulis oleh ya oke. I will try to find another analogy. Kalau autobiografi itu kan ditulis sama orangnya sendiri, biografi ditulis oleh orang sendiri. Kalau auto commentary itu komentar yang ditulis sama dia sendiri. Mungkin setelah beberapa tahun dia nulis satu kitab, kemudian dikomentarin oleh dirinya sendiri, bukan oleh orang lain.
So this is the text that he originally wrote, Qurratul Ain bi Muhimmat Din, and it's a very small text, maybe 40 halaman saja. But he wrote a commentary on it. It's called Fathul Mu'in. Yeah. So those who studied in Pasantran might have studied this text, Fathul Mu'in. Has anyone studied this text, Fathul Mu'in? No? Not yours? Okay. So this text is also, became very important across the Indian Ocean tradition. And there are several commentaries written on the text. Most important or most among them is called I'anatul Musta'in. This text was, remained in manuscript for a long time, but recently in 2022, it was published in Jeddah and in Malabar. So one edition in Jeddah, Darul Minhaj, you can see, and the other one is from Malabar. Yeah, so this is another text. So this is also some other commentaries. So the text received several commentaries, like so I'anatul Musta'in that I just mentioned, and then Tanshitul Mutala'in, or there is other text called Hashiyatul Fathul Mu'in, and then another one, Tarshihul Mustafidin. Yeah. But I choose out of those two important texts called I'anatul Talibin by Sayyid Bakri al-Shatta, also originally from Egypt but died in Mecca, and his colleague Nihayat by Nawawi al-Jawi al-Bandani, originally from Bandan actually, and he wrote a text called Nihayat al-Zayn. So yeah, so here you see that the Nihayat al-Zayn fi Irshad al-Muqtazi'in by Shaykh Nawawi al-Bandani. Yeah. And then the I'anatul Talibin, which is also continued to be studied or taught in different Pasandrans and traditions. Yeah. So these are basically you can say it is a story from Nawawi to Nawawi. Yeah. So Nawawi of Damascus, who wrote Minhajul Talibin, up to Nawawi al-Bandani, who wrote the Nihayatul Zayn. So within this 600 years, from 13th century until 19th century, we once we read the text of the Shafi tradition, we can understand why the school became very famous in the tradition. Yeah.
Ya, tadi ada super commentaries dari dua Nawawi, yang satu dari Mesir, yang satunya dari Damaskus, dari Banten, dari Jawi. Meskipun sudah terpaut cukup jauh jarak waktunya, tapi kemudian dua kitab super commentaries ini menjadi sangat sangat populer di wilayah di Asia, di Samudra Hindia. Dan itu mungkin kira-kira yang bisa menjadi salah satu jawaban kenapa mazhab Syafi'i cukup terkenal di wilayah Samudra Hindia.
Okay, thank you. So I'll quickly go to the following slides. So this is an attempt to bring it together. So here you see Minhaj, that going back to Al by Shafi, and for later period, we also have from Minhaj going back to Minhaj that attracted 150 plus commentaries, coming back to Fateh, and then to Nihaya up to the 19th century. And this is sort of a textual circulation from Mediterranean or between Mediterranean and Indian Ocean region. So maybe in the last part, in the last chapter of the book, or the most biggest chapter, is about the translation of this text into various languages. Can you see what is this script? Apa akshara ini? Come on. It's Bahasa Jawa. In Hanachurko, right? The old script. And this is a commentary, sorry, a translation done in the 19th century of the Kitab Tufa, yeah, into Java. And this is a manuscript from the British Library. Yeah. So this is one of the first translations. So all these texts that I mentioned are also translated into different Asian and African languages, and also European languages. So here you can see that the Kitab Tufa, which is also translated in 1853, yeah, by a Dutch scholar called Solomon Keizer. And then there is also the same text over here by another scholar, Toko Rurdra, who was a scholar or professor of Javanese. I've also translated that into Dutch later. So this is basically he published this and he translated it. And then there's another, this work that I mentioned is a translation by Edward Sakau, a German scholar who translated Bajuri's Hashia on the Fathul Karib, into German in 1899. And here you see that this is the LWC or LWC Vandenberg, who translated Minhaj al-Talibin by Imam Nawawi into French. And in fact, it was published here in Batavia or in Jakarta in 1882 to 1884. And the same translation was used by an English jurist called E.C. Howard in order to translate into English in 1915. And he translated this in Singapore. He was a judge. Sorry, he was a judge in Singapore, but he published this in India and London, two regions. So yeah, this text, these two texts were used widely by different scholars. Okay, yeah, maybe I'll skip to the last part. Like it. Yeah. Okay, yeah, maybe the previous one. So mainly I skipped one part, which is, basically how can we use this text in order to understand the history of local people. And I take the, Minhaj Talibin, sorry, Fathul Mu'in from Malabar, and then I explain how we can use this as a source of social history or political history or cultural history. But I skipped that because you may not be interested in, unless of course if you are interested, I can explain. And this is the text that I mentioned from from Indonesia, from Aceh, by the famous scholar Nuruddin Al-Raniri, and this is possibly the first Malay or Bahasa Indonesia Malay text, Bahasa Aceh even, written in the Shafi tradition by Nuruddin Al-Raniri. The text is called As-Siratul Mustaqim. Yeah. So in the text, next slide, he says that he took the text from several earlier texts of the Shafi tradition, including the ones that we just mentioned, Minhaj of Imam Nawawi, but also other texts within the Fathul Wahab by Zakaria Al-Ansari, and then the other text, Manhaj. Yeah, Manhaj is a commentary by Zakaria Al-Ansari, not a commentary, but a summary. Yeah, Mukhtasar, by Zakaria Al-Ansari, and then he wrote a auto commentary on it called Fathul Wahab, and then Hidayatul Muhtad. So all these texts that he used, Nuruddin Al-Raniri used it in order to write Siratul Mustaqim. And basically by looking at the references, his references or his site, we can see what texts were used or were available to him in order to write, So, for example, when he wrote this in Aceh in 17th century, in 1630, late 1630s and early 1640s, on that basis, we can understand what texts were being circulated. Shafi texts that were being circulated in Aceh or in the Malay archipelago around that period. Yeah. The other few texts that are also very important, and I think Professor Pajajat and Masindi are also trying to explore some of the texts that are being. Another important text, also almost a contemporary of Nuruddin Raniri, but also from Aceh, Abdur Rauf Al-Singhi, who also wrote a text called Mir'atu Tullah. Yeah? And then after that, maybe 30, 40 years after, there's this text called Safinatul Hukam, also from Aceh, but this text by, by Arshad al-Banjari from Kalimantan, by Muhammad Arshad al-Banjari. He wrote Sabil al-Muhtadin as a commentary on the first text, on the Sabil al-Muhtadin. So all these texts, once we read them closely, these are some of the earliest Malay Shafi'i texts. Yeah. Once we read them closely, we can understand why we are Shafi'i. Yeah. But we need to read. So yeah, maybe.
Tadi mungkin dari yang translation. Tadi ada banyak kitab-kitab Syafi'i yang kemudian diterjemahkan ke banyak bahasa, berbagai bahasa. Mulai dari bahasa Belanda, bahasa Jerman, bahasa Prancis tadi ada juga, dan bahasa Inggris dan lain-lain banyak. Pada teks-teks slide-slide berikutnya, Mahmud menjelaskan mengenai citation atau kutipan-kutipan yang dipakai oleh Raniri dalam menulis kitabnya, Siratul Mustaqim tadi. Dari situ dari citation itu kita bisa melacak kira-kira sebetulnya teks apa sih yang dipakai untuk menulis kitabnya itu, dan dari rujukan-rujukannya itu kita bisa tahu sebetulnya teks-teks apa yang sedang beredar di wilayah itu, di Aceh dalam hal ini.
Okay, thank you. So finally, I'm going to conclude with some recommendation for reading. If you are interested in the history of Shafi'i Madhab, some other works written in the Shafi'i tradition. Yeah. So of course, my book that I mentioned is in circulation, but also I'm not the only one who wrote about it. So this text by this scholar Ahmad Al-Shamsi. This is based on his PhD at Harvard University, published in 2013 or 14, I think, called Canonization of Islamic Law, Social and Intellectual History. This is about Imam Shafi and Kitab al-Umm, but also on these two Mukhtasar Buwaiti and Mukhtasar al-Muzni. So if you are interested, you can of course look at this text. But also another, this is a little bit old, from 1974, published originally in German by Heinz Hall. This is also possibly the first study, by a Western scholar, a full-length academic study on the history of the Shafi tradition. So if you are interested, and if you can read the Dutch or German, of course, you can explore that one as well. And then, this text by an Indonesian scholar, Fakhrizal Halim. This is a full-length study on Yahya Nawawi, Imam Nawawi, on his contributions to Islamic law. He studies Minhaj al-Talibin, Majmu', and all these texts. So Fakhrizal Halim, I think originally from, I don't know which part of Indonesia, maybe from Java. But he lives and so he wrote his dissertation in McGill University, and now he continues to teach in Canada. So this text is on Imam Yahya Nawawi, and then there is another scholar by Kevin Jattas who studied what you call the Tabaqat al-Shafi'iyya. Tabaqat al-Shafi'iyya is like a biographical dictionary of the ulama yang Shafi'i. So this text is a study about that. And then similarly, the previous two texts and these two texts are sort of biographical study, looking at one scholar and studying their contributions to the Islamic law. So most of these scholars, or all these scholars, are Shafi'i scholars and their contributions. So this is by Rebecca Hernandez on Jalaluddin Suyuti, Imam Suyuti, and this is by on Zakaria al-Ansari, who wrote Fathul Wahab or the Manhaj. Sorry. So there is the another scholar, Aaron Stewart, looking at Bajuri, Imam Bajuri, who wrote the Hashia on the Fathul Qarib. And there is another very important scholar, I don't know where is he now, he's also from Indonesia, Alex Vijayo. He published, he submitted this from Columbia University as his PhD dissertation, a study on Sheikh Nawawi al-Bandani, possibly one of the first studies on this. And then Nico Captain from Leiden University looked at, it's also a biographical study of the the scholar that I mentioned, the first chart, who prepared the first chart, Usman, Sayyid Usman. And finally, I mean, of course, these are not a comprehensive list. There are several texts which are not included in the test. Of course, this would be more than enough for you to read if you are interested for now. So this is by Bradley on Fatani, basically looking at the legacy of Sheikh Dawood al-Fatani, and then a classic text. I'm sure you have read it already in your courses. If you have not, you must read it back to back, and you should memorize it. It's almost like Minhaj al-Talibin. If you didn't read Minhaj al-Talibin, you are not a Shafi'i. Similarly, if you didn't read this text, you are not still a student of Sajra or other. For the text, so Azimardi, Pazimardi, that's text on the Jaringan Ulama. So these are some of the readings. Of course, these are not, again, a full list, but something that you can, explore further. So I will conclude here, and maybe if you have any questions, you can ask me. I'll be happy to answer maybe related to this or not? Any broad questions?
Ya, kita kasih applause untuk Mahmud. Lalu saya coba terjemahkan jadi concluding remarks-nya, kata penutupnya. Kira-kira Pak Mahmud ini memberikan rekomendasi kalau kalian tertarik mengenai kajian-kajian sejarah mazhab Syafi'i ini banyak model yang bisa dilihat. Tentu saja Mahmud bukan yang pertama melakukan kajian mengenai sejarah mazhab Syafi'i. Ada tadi misalnya kajian dari El-Samsi yang menulis sejarah sosial dan intelektual mengenai Syafi'i yang dibaca dari beberapa kitab utamanya Imam Shafi seperti Al-Um. Kemudian tadi ada kemungkinan menjadi kajian paling awal yang disetujui oleh sarjana barat dari Jerman, ada Heinz Holm, ada yang dari Indonesia, Pak Rizal Halim, ada Jacques, dan masih banyak yang lainnya. Terakhir Mahmud bilang kalau ada pertanyaan terkait ini atau tidak terkait ini silahkan disampaikan. Gitu. Saya buka sesi pertanyaan kepada teman-teman. Pertanyaan boleh disampaikan entah pakai bahasa Indonesia, bahasa Arab, atau bahasa Indonesia. Untuk sesi ini saya buka 3 pertanyaan dulu, 2 di offline, 1 di Zoom. Ya, silakan. Ya, 2 Mbak ini. Dan ada di Zoom 1. Silakan sebut nama dan pertanyaannya.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Nama saya Aulia, saya mau tanya tentang maksudnya Islam kan mazhab Syafi'i pertama kali ke Indonesia, mayoritas. Nah, terus saya pernah baca bahwa salah satu buktinya itu karena gelar Raja Samudra Pasai yang pakai Al-Malik. Nah, itu salah satu bukti bahwa mazhab Syafi'i masuk ke Indonesia. Itu kenapa ya, Pak? Tolong penjelasannya. Terima kasih. Oke. Oke, nama saya Firda Amalia, biasa dipanggil Firda. Pertama kali belajar tentang mazhab, soalnya nggak punya background madrasah ataupun pesantren, jadi punya beberapa pertanyaan yang mungkin sedikit konyol, tapi Firda percaya nggak ada pertanyaan yang bodoh kan. Jadi yang pertama, kenapa sih sebelum tadi jauh ngomongin tentang mazhab Syafi'i itu apa, tapi Firda punya penasaran tersendiri mengenai kenapa kita harus bermazhab gitu. Terus kenapa setiap negara ada identifikasi mazhabnya tersendiri? Itu dari mana kita bisa tahu? Kalau misalnya di Indonesia mungkin Syafi'i, di Turki Hanafi, mungkin di Mekah Hambali gitu, itu kenapa ada klasifikasi seperti itu? Terus negara ini sebenarnya ada nggak sih regulasi atau legal standing, mungkin ada fatwa MUI yang menyatakan secara jelas bahwa negara kita ini adalah negara bermazhab Syafi'i, atau emang itu cuma klaim aja karena emang buktinya banyak kalau tafsir atau kita tentang Syafi'i itu banyak kayak gitu. Terima kasih.
Question is from Zoom.
Okay. Maybe we answer these 2 questions first and then take questions. Maybe briefly. Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Terima kasih banyak for the questions. So for the first question on the, Samudra Pasai, it's not about the title, yeah, but the traveler Ibn Battuta, he comes to Samudra Pasai kingdom and he writes, and they were Shafi, yeah. So he says that he participated in the most like Pangajian or Mangajian, call it right, in the masjid after the salat, maybe Salatul Jummah, there is a learning session, and then they were studying the Shafi text. So even though they might have been using the something like a title like Malik, but Malik that is mainly related to like a ruler, yeah, and not necessarily like Maliki, yeah. But there were also in Indonesia, like those who followed Maliki tradition. May not be in Samudra Pasai, but in other places, yeah, who followed Maliki tradition up to maybe 16th century. Yeah. So on Verda's question, yeah, from one place to one nagari to another. It is mostly like so the first question on the why certain countries identify themselves with one madhab is mainly self-identification. Yeah. So they say that, for example, all of you say that we are Shafi. Yeah. But why we are Shafi, we may not have an explanation. But still, we identify ourselves. And similarly, each country, like if you go to, for example, North Africa, they identify, most of the people identify themselves as Maliki. And it is based on, so for the awam, for ordinary people, there is no madhab. Like, there is no, the differences in the madhab do not matter. It is mainly for the ulama who identify, who basically make distinction between the madhab. Yeah. So that is one reason, the self-identification, but also how the ulama differentiate or identify themselves. And the second question was on how to identify. Yeah. So on the state regulation, I think in Indonesia, we don't see that until like maybe 17th century or 18th, even 18th century, maybe in Kalimantan or other places. But before that, we see, for example, in Mamluk dynasty, or even before that, the Fatimid dynasty, which was Shi'i, and then after that, the Ayyubid dynasty in Egypt and Syria, and then the Rasulids in Yemen, and all these places they appointed the chief Qali, yeah, the position of the Shaykhul Islam and the Qadil Qudat or Qadil Qudat, or how do you translate it? Like the main ulama. So it has to, they have to follow a particular madhab. So in the Ayyubid dynasty, it has to be the Shafi'i, yeah, and even in the Maliki, in the Mamluk dynasty, yeah, in Egypt, the Shaykhul Islam has to be a Shafi'i, and similarly in Ottoman, Osmania, yeah, Ottoman Caliphate, the Shaykhul Islam had to be Hanafi, not a Shafi'i or Maliki could not become the Shaykhul Islam or the Qadil Ula. That means the official madhab of a country or an empire is that particular madhab. Yeah. But what we see in Indonesia much later, maybe by the 17th century, 18th century, we see that most of the scholars were available already here. are Shafi scholars. So naturally, they become the Shaykh al-Islam or the, Qadhi al-Qulat in different regions. Unlike in the Middle East, where you have different regulation, you have different madhab, and anyone can become, or Shafi or Hanafi or Maliki could become Shaykh al-Islam, but the ruler prevented it because the ada or the custom of the empire required that particularly like a person from that madhab has to be the Qadhi Qulat. I'll give you maybe one brief example. In Egypt, there is a saying for a long time, up to maybe 13th or 14th century, that any ruler who rules Egypt, who is not a Shafi'i, will become will be dethroned within a short period. Yeah. So even if the ruler was a Hanafi, in order to become a ruler of Egypt, they had to accept the Shafi madhab. Otherwise, within 1 year, they thought he will be killed or he will be dethroned. So therefore, so that is mostly like a custom or like a regulation, unwritten regulation that was existing.
Sudah jelas apa perlu ditranslate? Yeah, okay. One question.
Okay. Kita perlu tahu ada nggak sih cara spesifik untuk negara buat undang-undang atau ada fatwa MUI yang menegaskan kalau masyarakat Indonesia itu berhendak Syafi'i gitu. Nah, misalnya kan di undang-undang pasal 29 ayat 2 kan bilang negara menjamin kemerdekaan keyakinan setiap penduduk itu ada keyakinan itu kan jelas banget. Nah, kalau untuk mazhab Syafi'i ini ada nggak sih klaim dari negara sendiri gitu? Kalau misalnya nggak ada, berarti kita dibebaskan atau tidak mau.
This is mainly because after the Merdeka, right, after the independence. So mainly by this time, by the 20th century, we are talking. What I was explaining is like pre-modern, pre-colonial period. After the colonial period, already everything is standardized. Standardized in the sense that the kitab, that is kitab kuning, that is being taught in the Pasandran, is all Shafi'i. So there is no, madhab, maybe one text, what they call the Muqaranatul Madhahib, or comparative study of the madhab. So this is only one text that they might study, maybe from Qudhuri, of Hanafi tradition. Everything else is Shafi'i. So what we see that by the independence and when the movie come into the scenario, the majority of the texts that they already study and use are Shafi'i. And therefore, the immediate reference point is the Shafi'i. Even then, we have, evidences where the scholars use kitab from other madhab also in order to give fatwa that fits the local context. Yeah.
Mas Gunawan, apa boleh ditampilkan pertanyaan dari Zoom? Karena saya tadi disconnect. Dari chat Mas Gun. So there is a question from Idris Masudi. I will try to translate it. Why you are positioning Nihayat Zain with Iyanah as super commentary? In fact, those kitab is different. Nihayat Zain is a syarah, while Iana is a Hasiyah. What is your reason? That is the first question. The second one. It's commenter from Idris. Regarding to the neglection of the role of the state in the circulation of fikih kitab, it is quite questionable. It is questionable because when he introduced the translation of fikih kitab in Nusantara, he said several ulama like Sheikh like Al-Sinkili and Araniri, because as we know that those ulama patronizing Aceh Sultanate at the time. I don't know, is it commenter? Did you get it?
I didn't get the first part of the question.
The first question?
No, that I get, like the second question, the first part.
The last part.
The first part.
First part, I don't know who is he rejected the role of the state in the process of the circulation of Safi Kitab.
Okay.
But I don't know if
yeah. Okay. Thank you, Idris, Idris, for the question. So both questions are very important. On the first, why I categorized Nihayat Zain and Iyanat Talibin. So Iyanat Talibin, for those who are not familiar, Iyanat Talibin is a commentary on the Fathul Mu'in, which is a auto commentary on the Qurratul Ain. Yeah. Whereas Nihayat Zain by Imam Nawawi al-Bandani is a commentary directly on Qurratul Ain. Yeah. So without depending on Fathul Mu'in. And why did I group them together? Mainly, if we take the Nihayat Zain, and Imam Nawawi al-Bandani already mentions this in his introduction, that whatever he mentions in the text is not directly not written, but he has taken that from other texts. Even this sentence, this sentence that he took everything from other texts, even that sentence is taken from another text called Nihayat al-Amal. Yeah. So when we check the text closely, almost everything in the text is taken from, sentence by sentence or paragraph by paragraph are taken from other commentaries. So in his attempt, he is trying to put everything together as what I would say, as a super commentary. So he takes the commentaries from other texts and then bring that into the text as a super commentary based on the Qurratul Ain. So something similar to what he also, Sayyid Bakri al-Shatta, does in Iyanat Talibin. So that is one. And I hope this answers the question. So it's like the process itself, it almost like plagiarism. Yeah. There's takes almost everything, takes from other texts. But we cannot accuse of him as plagiarism. Rather, the very act of taking from different texts and then putting them together is in itself an act of, intellectual contribution, like a commentary writing. Instead of, making something new, you are putting something in order to. So why do you select only this passage, not that passage? Yeah. So he has a reason behind selection. So that is one. And the second question on the role of the state, and I think he is referring to my own book. Yeah. So this is I mentioned that towards the end of the text that although in the circulation of the Shafi madhab, we do not see the role of state much in other parts, in maybe in Egypt or Yemen, Oman, East Africa, or even India, we do see a very strong role of the state in the, in the textual production, or in the, like, Nuruddin Raneri, Singili Atrov, Singili, Arshadul Manjari, all these authors were part of the state, and they were patronized by, or like, they had a proper patronage by the state. So the Nusandara, or Fiqh Nusandara in that sense, has to be studied separately, and it cannot be clubbed together. And I think I do mention that in the book as a footnote.
Apakah saya tidak tahu apakah Pak Idris masih di Zoom, tapi kira-kira apakah
Masih. Ya, saya mendengar penjelasan Pak Mahmud. Terima kasih, Mas Endi.
Baik, Pak Idris. Saya buka sesi kedua, sama kayak tadi, 2 pertanyaan dari sini dan 1 lagi dari Zoom. Apakah ada? Oke, 2 di sini, 1 lagi saya tunggu dari Zoom. Silakan maju aja. Yang satunya mengantri.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ada pertanyaan mungkin tentang mazhab Syafi'i, yang kita tahu bersama bahwa sejarah Indonesia yang mainstream itu bahwa mungkin masuknya Islam itu, masuk Islamnya di tanah Indonesia itu adalah melalui jalur tasawuf, belum mazhab. Jadi banyak sekali tasawuf yang ada di Indonesia, dan tidak mungkin untuk mazhab itu tidak dalam dulu gitu, di awal-awal masuk. Sampai datangnya Araniri, karena melihat bahwa tasawuf sudah terlalu besar dan menyingkirkan kemurnian hukum gitu Islam. Akhirnya dia datang untuk memurnikan gitu. Nah, apakah Islam mazhab itu masuknya terlambat gitu di penyebaran Islam di Indonesia, karena mungkin di tasawuf itu lebih dapat di masyarakat. Jadi akhirnya Islam itu tidak, hukum itu jadinya kayak terlambat datangnya, karena kan kita lihat bahwa hukum itu baru didapat, maksudnya kitab-kitab kayak misalnya Hadits Ribuan dan kitab-kitab setelahnya itu di abad setelah Araniri datang gitu loh, misalnya ke abad 16 gitu. Nah, yang kedua juga mungkin ada tambahan bahwa ada juga kitab di Indonesia, karyanya Syekh Ihsan Jampas, komentari juga, yaitu Sirajul Talibin, Syarhin Minhajul Talibin. Nah, itu syarahnya Syekh Ihsan Jampas, asal Indonesia, yang mengomentari tentang Minhajul Talibin gitu. Dan itu cukup menarik karena mungkin yang kita tahu Minhajul Talibin tidak ada yang pernah mensyarahi secara dalam gitu, seperti Sirajul Talibin. Nah, ini karya ulama Indonesia yang bisa dikatakan menjadi salah satu panduan untuk kita, panduan-panduan hukum yang seperti di Mesir, di Al-Azhar, dan di Indonesia. Jadi gitu. Terus juga mungkin ada juga tambahan di mana tadi kan ada 2 yang tadi itu minhaj dan fatul ya, yang masih diajarkan di bagian yang masih bermadzhab Syafi'i. Nah, mungkin karangannya Abu Syuja itu sebenarnya masih diajarkan. Tapi kenapa minhaj itu lebih diprioritaskan? Karena Minhajul Talibin juga termasuk kitab yang berat gitu loh. Untuk kalangan pesantren itu, untuk Minhajul Talibin itu udah kalangan aliyah atau tinggi, ada ahli. Nah, sementara untuk satu karangan Abu Syuja itu termasuk yang mudah gitu. Kenapa? Itu juga alasannya kenapa memilih Minhajul Talibin daripada syarh matan Abu Syuja. Itu aja, terima kasih. Perkenalkan, nama saya Muhammad Ridho.
Okay, I think Ascendi, I'll answer because he already has 3 questions now. Okay, sure.
Oke, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Perkenalkan Pak Mahmud, nama saya Abdul Arif. Saya ingin bertanya Pak, tadi Pak Mahmud itu menjelaskan bahwasannya mayoritas bumi bagian selatan itu bermazhab Syafi'i. Nah, sedangkan bagian dari negara-negara lain seperti Arab Saudi yang bermazhab Hanafi dan dan Turki yang bermazhab Hambali. Pertanyaan saya gini Pak, apakah ada sebuah identifikasi wilayah yang menjelaskan bahwasannya di wilayah itu merupakan mayoritas pemeluk dari mazhab tertentu? Contoh, Arab Saudi di wilayah Timur Tengah. Nah, apakah semua wilayah Timur Tengah ini merupakan pemeluk dari mazhab yang sama? Nah, Turki di wilayah yang lain yang menganut mazhab Hambali, apakah ada bukti otentik gitu, yang mana di setiap wilayah itu memiliki identifikasi mazhabnya masing-masing? Mungkin seperti itu, Pak. Terima kasih.
Ya. Okay, thank you for the question. So, on the first question, on Raneri, Imam Raneri, being the sort of the game changer from the tasawwuf to fiqh. Thing we have been discussing this with Professor Jajat on the transition. It is not true because even before Raneri came, there was already fiqh. Yeah, as I mentioned in the question on Samudra Pasai, when Ibn Battuta goes to the masjid, the king, the Sultan, I think Sultan Salih, or he gives the name, they study fiqh, yeah, in the Madhab Shafi, not tasawwuf, yeah. So that means the fiqh was already present, yeah, and the practice of studying and practicing was already there. So that is one, we see that. So the tasawwuf, of course, was there, but also the fiqh. And even after Raneri, in the 17th and 18th and 19th century, there is one book that Professor Amirul Hadi shared with me by a scholar called Arawadi. Yeah, I don't know whether you come across this text. So he prepares a list of texts written by ulama Aceh in 18th and 19th century after Raneri. Yeah, and majority of the texts are still in tasawwuf. Yeah, so that means the tasawwuf continued to be prominent, while the fiqh also continued to be, existing in the region for a long time. Yeah. So Raneri, of course, contributed with a solid text in the Malay, but that did not change the orientation in the local tradition. It was tasawwuf and fiqh. So if you look at, for example, the collection of the collection of the naskah, mungkin dari Aceh atau dari Minangkabau, dari surau-surau lain atau pondok ya daya dan pesantren. Ada banyak ya naskah collection, naskah manuscript collection, and we see that the fiqh manuscript, but also the tasawwuf manuscript, often only by the late 19th century. Yeah, by 19th century, that the fiqh manuscripts become important. And this is mainly, we can see that by the 19th century when the colonial administration come and then they make it mandatory. Like, for example, Snooker Kenya, he conducts an exam for the Pangul to study, to check to what extent they know Islamic law. So an orientation towards or overemphasis on Sharia is or overemphasis becoming only the framework in which to study the Islam is, I think, only by the 19th century. And we don't see most of the texts for the collections before 19th century are both tasawwuf and fiqh. Yeah. Okay, so that is one question, and then the other I forgot.
oh yeah, Abu Shuja and Minhaj Talibin. Why Minhaj Talibin becomes like, in the Aliyah, while the Matan Abu Shuja in the Ibtidaiyah. Yeah. It's mainly because, as I mentioned, Matan Abu Shuja basically belongs to one group. I mentioned that there was already a split in the Shafi tradition. Two sub-madhab. Yeah. So the Imam Shafi, and then there is the madhab Khurasani and madhab Iraqi or madhab Baghdadi. Yeah. Both Shafi, but two different groups. And Abu Shuja belongs to the one group, which is, if I remember correctly, from the Iraqi opinion. So it doesn't represent the comprehensive view. Yeah. And Minhaj Talibin eventually brought together the disagreements between the Madhab Khurasani and Madhab Iraqi into single tradition. And therefore, after 13th century, yeah, it continued to be taught in different places, almost everywhere. In Yemen, in Somalia, in Kenya, they still continue to give importance for Minhaj Talibin. While all other texts which were written before, they still are used, but like not in the same position. So Minhaj is considered, it is like, the code of the, the most advanced code of the, so even if you study Mahalli or Mahalli, which is like, for example, very common, that is still a commentary, a sharah on the Minhaj Talibin. Yeah. Okay, and you had one more question. Yeah, but I forgot. Your question on, why particular empire follow particular madhab, and if there is any, authentic evidence, yeah, for the followership of the madhab. I think definitely yes. In the first, I would like to clarify the Ottoman Empire is not Hanbali, it's Hanafi. Yeah. And then the Saudi, mainly people say they follow Hanbali, but it is contestable. We cannot grow, it mainly depends on, from which perspective we are looking at, whether we are looking at from the bottom, from top down or from bottom up. Yeah, so often we see that the rulers are following particular madhab, such as the Maliki or the Hanbali or and so forth, while the majority of the people are following another madhab. For example, if you take the case of Egypt, yeah, Misr, after it became under the power of the Ottoman Caliphate, yeah, in 1517, the Egypt. Ottomans conquered the Mamluk dynasty and killed the ruler, and it became. So after that, the chief Qadi appointed to Egypt was always a Hanafi. The Perkavinan or the marriage and many things that was administered by the state was according to the Hanafi tradition. While the majority of the people still follow Shafi tradition. Yeah, Shafi madhab. So if you look at from the bottom up, from the perspective of the top, from top down, if you're looking at, then you can see that, okay, all the administration, the courts, the rulers, the chief Qadi, everyone is Hanafi. Well, if you look from bottom up, you can see that people still follow Ibadah, yeah, in Urdu or in Salat or in Zakat or in Hajj, they still follow Shafi madhab, yeah. So it is depending on from which perspective. So therefore, different madhabs can coexist at the same time. In certain rules that you follow Hanafi, in certain rules you follow the Shafi. Yeah, so maybe in Jinaya, in criminal law, you follow Hanafi. In Ibadah, you follow Shafi. And the state, the empire, the government can follow one madhab while the people follow another madhab. So therefore, we have to look at what exactly people are doing. Yeah, maybe so there is the court order, like from Pengadilan Agama, yeah, which is like religious code, and their hukum can be on certain laws, but there are also the fatwa, yeah, fatwa not coming from Pengadilan Agama. From like religious code, you have the rules, like a judgment. Whereas a fatwa is like from ordinary people asking to a kiai or like to a sandri, asking an explanation, and that can be from a different madhab as well. Yeah, so it is complicated, and we have to look, what exactly people follow.
Ridho, ya, Ridho dan Arif tadi apa sudah tertangkap? Oke, sudah ya. Oke. Oke, ada sesi sekali lagi terakhir sama kayak tadi. Di ruangan ini apakah ada yang ingin bertanya? 2 pertanyaan dan 1 di Zoom. Nggak mesti related tentang ini ya. Jadi kalau apapun mungkin terkait sejarah mungkin regarding to history. Ya, regarding to history, oke, kalau mau tanya. Ya, oke. Askar tadi. Ya. Saya mau bertanya tentang golongan utama teks. Tadi kan ada kayak tanti, tanbih, dan lain-lain. Cuman dari tadi saya lihat misalnya kayak tanke kan matanya base text-nya itu kan lubab dari al-mahamili. Sementara tanke di sini statusnya itu dia komentar. Nah, katanya kok bisa gitu ada nama-nama tanke, minhaj itu dari mana? Apakah karya-karya itu dari kepopulerannya saja atau dari aspek-aspek lain?
So the name of the text, like for example, I take it the most famous text. Yeah. So in for example, Minhaj family, Minhaj is the most popular text, but it also has a base text. We have to as historian, you look at the origin. Where does this text come from? And then once you look at, you see that it is based on a previous text. So then you see that, for example, in Minhaj Talibin, it is based on Muharrar by Abul Qasim al-Rafi'i, Persian scholar. So the name of the group is based on the most famous text, but not necessarily it is the first text. So the first text might be written earlier. Yeah.
Any other question? Silakan.
Why girls are not asking?
Ke bawah aja. Lagi mana? Ini. Ya,
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Perkenalkan, nama saya Jenal Abidin. Saya ingin bertanya ke Prof. Kan di dalam kitab Musraf Karim, Nihayatul Zain, dan di dalam kitab I'anah dikatakan bahwasannya ketika kita bermadzhab di suatu negara itu, contohnya Indonesia itu bermadzhab Imam Syafi'i. Apakah boleh? Kan di dalam kitab itu tidak diperbolehkan. Apakah boleh di kitab lain atau ada yang mengatakan kita di Indonesia itu bermazhab Imam Syafi'i, tetapi apakah boleh bermazhab Imam Maliki, Imam Hanafi? Apakah itu sah atau tidak?
I think so. He is asking why. No, maybe can we
we cannot do that. Yeah.
Oke, perkenalkan, nama saya Firman Rahmatullah. Saya ingin bertanya, kan Indonesia kan mazhabnya Syafi'i ya. Sedangkan kalau kita beribadah haji,
beribadah haji di sana itu imam apa berjamaah Maliki. Nah, kan jadi pertanyaan saya itu hukum mazhab Syafi'i itu kan tidak boleh bersentuhan terhadap perempuan ya. Ya, sedangkan kalau kita pergi haji ya, sedang tawaf, nanti kan bercampur tuh antara laki-laki dan perempuan. Nah itu kan otomatis kan Indonesia apa otomatis kan jamaah Indonesia kan berpindah mazhab dari Syafi'i ke mazhab Maliki. Itu pertanyaan saya. Satu lagi boleh? Boleh. Kan, tadi kan? Nah, jadi pertanyaan saya itu bagaimana mencari sumber-sumber yang tadi ditampilkan oleh Profesor Dr. Mahmud apa dalam mempresentasikan tadi yang tentang mazhab. Iya. Okay, thank you for the question. So the first question and your first question, basically answer the question, yeah? Basically, like, if you go on Hajj, you can change the madhab. And, if you are Shafi, because like, if you touch a woman, you, what you call it, like nawaqadul wudu, your wudu become, like you break your wudu. But in the Hanafi tradition, it doesn't. Therefore, you change to the madhab Hanafi, because during the tawaf or during the what you call it, like when you run between Safa Marwa, you touch different women, maybe for example. So then you change to the Hanafi, and according to them, it's not you don't break the wudu. If you touch another woman, or like a woman touch a man, you don't until if it is without shahwa, yeah, without the what you call it, like sexual intention. So basically, it answers your question that you can have 2 madhab or 3 madhab or 4 madhab, but you cannot have it at the same time. Yeah. So the basic principle is that ikhtilaful aimma. You know that, right? Ikhtilaful aimma rahmatul lil ummah. That is like the difference of opinion between different ulama is basically a blessing, like an anugraha for the ummah. So basically, you can choose between different madhabs. The only condition is that you cannot always choose the most easy one. Yeah. For example, like in wudu, according to the you can do the wudu according to the Hanafi tradition, but also you have to do the same, in your salah. Like, so in the salat, if you are doing the prayer, according to the Hanafi tradition, you have to pray 4 times, 4 sunnah before dhuhr, 4 rakah before dhuhr or asr, and then 4 rakah again after the dhuhr. Yeah, it is according to it is wajib in the dalam madhab Hanafi, tapi dalam Shafi ini sunnah saja. But you cannot do the wudu according to the Hanafi and then pray according to the Shafi. So you cannot choose only the easy one. But you can, like, maybe in Ibadah, you can choose one madhab and then do, other things in other madhab. So what contradicts one another, you cannot choose many madhabs in the same ritual, for example. Yeah. And on the primary sources, does this explain, answer your question?
Sudah jelas belum pertanyaannya? Jawabannya? Kira-kira ini disclaimer dulu ya. Mahmud, you're not a here. Ini disclaimer dari seorang sarjana bahwa sebetulnya tidak masalah pada kasus tertentu kita menggunakan mazhab yang lain, tapi kita tidak bisa menggunakannya secara bersamaan. We can do that at the same time in the same case. Ya, begitu. udah dapat ya.
And your question on the primary sources, yeah. All these texts that I mentioned, I use them as my primary sources. In addition, there are other texts like maybe Tabaqat Ulama, Tabaqat Fuqaha Shafi'iyah, and also Tarajim Ulama Shafi'iyah or Tarajim, but also travel account and many other different sources, diaries or all sort of different things. Is there a podium
Ya, ini ada special request. Kira-kira ini kan kebanyakan perempuan nih. Ada nggak pertanyaan dari teman-teman mahasiswa perempuan kepada Mahmud? Karena mungkin saja ini kan teksnya kebanyakan laki-laki. Ada nggak teks perempuan, teks ulama perempuan yang kemudian ikut bersirkulasi dalam atau pertanyaan lain? Ada? Ya, if there's no other question, kita sudahi saja mungkin sesi pada hari ini. Pertama kita kasih big round of applause untuk Mahmud Gurian. Dan juga teman-teman semua yang sudah hadir di sini maupun di Zoom, terima kasih banyak. Saya selaku moderator tidak akan memberikan kesimpulan apa-apa karena tadi sudah banyak sekali dan sangat jelas saya kira. Untuk teman-teman yang ada di UIN Jakarta, Mahmud masih akan ada di sini sampai until Oktober. Jadi kalau mau diskusi mengenai topik-topik seperti ini, misalnya mungkin nanti tertarik untuk kajian skripsinya atau mungkin ada mahasiswa yang menulis tesis mengenai sejarah mazhab Syafi'i, silakan berdiskusi dengan Mahmud karena mumpung ada ahlinya di sini yang bisa kita ajak diskusi. Saya kira itu, mohon maaf apabila ada kesalahan dari saya sudahi. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
I also would like to thank again Mas Henry for translating this whole session, but also Pak Jajat and Bu Aulia and Pak Khair for being here and also for having this session throughout. And also thanks to all of you for staying throughout, those who are offline, but also those who are online. And as Mas Henry mentioned, I will be here until October. And if you have any questions related to Shafi, fiqh, you can always come back to me, especially if you would like to write your scriptsy or like a journal article or something else, I'll be available. My room is yeah.
Mahmud ada di lantai. Nanti kalau mau ketemu silakan. Mahmud juga akan masuk kelas, beberapa kelas nanti untuk ngasih lecture. Ada souvenir foto bersama ya, yang akan diserahkan oleh Pak Jajat. Ada souvenir yang akan diserahkan oleh Pak Jajat pada Mahmud. Pak Jajat will give your token of appreciation. Give me a round of applause for both of them. Oke. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.